Welcome back. How about non-West Siders? Welcome. We're glad that you're here. I am going to, in a minute, introduce our rep from the RMV. I just wanted to talk with you guys to make sure everybody understands what we're doing today. We're looking here in West Side at this being a two-part process. The first part is why you get an ID, what it's used for, and what are the documents that would qualify you, what you may need to bring. Michelle's our expert. She's going to talk to you about that. The second part is obtaining those documents. That is not going to be covered today. What we're looking for you today is to be able to walk out with your list, to know exactly which documents you need to get. For some people, that may be really easy. You've been born here, you got married here, easy. You go over, you see auto, you tell them what you need. For other people, it may be more cumbersome. You're from another country, from a different area and whatnot. We at the Senior Center, and I know other centers, are here to help. So you guys aren't going out on your own. We're going to have some times where you can come in, get a hand in trying to locate things and whatnot. Is everybody good with that? All right, well, without further ado, here is Michelle from the RMV. Can we give her a warm welcome?
Thank you so much, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for all your help for passing down the handouts. As you know, we've got checklists. So as Sarah mentioned, my name is Michelle, and I work for the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and I have been with the registry for more than 18 years. And my job at the registry is community outreach, so I am so lucky to be able to go across the state and talk to folks about a whole host of topics, from safe driving to disability placards, to renewals and licensing processes. And I not only talk to older adults, I talk to younger people as well. I talk to people who are currently working, commuters who have questions about getting what they need to get. We do a lot of safe driving lectures and workshops, so thank you all so much for coming. So today, we're going to be talking a lot about the new licensing requirements and Real ID. And I know you've heard a little bit maybe about Real ID, maybe you've heard it from friends, maybe you've seen it in the news. There's a lot of talk about Real ID, and I'll answer any questions that you have, but I want to ask you to hold the questions until I get through, as I said earlier, until I get through the presentation piece of it, because I have a feeling that your questions will be answered. And of course, as Sarah said, everyone has a different story to tell, and that's how we look at it at the registry. And that's why you may have heard that the lines or the wait time at the registry has been longer recently. We were doing, a really great job up until March 28th, which is when the system turned over, and now we're learning this new system, and we have to require additional documentation, and that is taking some time, and we appreciate your patience, and it's getting better and better as the weeks go by. So, because everyone has a story to tell. People ask me, why are the lines so long right now at the registry? Well, they are better than they were back in March when we first transferred over to the new system. But the big reason is because everyone is an individual. It's not a cookie cutter industry that we're in. The Registry of Motor Vehicles serves, I think we have something like 5.8 million license holders. So that's just the number of license holders here in Massachusetts, approximately 5.8 million. On top of that, I think we have about 5.5 million, maybe closer to 6 million registered vehicles on our road. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much the registry does, and we pretty much touch everyone's life, and everyone has a story, a different story to tell. So that takes time. That takes time for us to make sure that you've got what you need, and that we're able to give you what you want too. So that being said, let's get right into what is Real ID. So I passed out a document that, and thanks to Annie for making extra copies, but it's a two-sided document, and it talks about what documents will I need in order to renew my driver's license or in order to renew my Massachusetts ID card. So when I talk about Real ID, first thing you should keep in mind is that Real ID applies to both the driver's license and the Massachusetts ID card. So don't worry if you do not hold a driver's license, but yet you hold a Massachusetts ID card, you can absolutely get a Real ID Massachusetts ID card, okay? So when I talk about Real ID, I'm talking about both the driver's license as well as a Massachusetts ID card. You can choose whichever one you want. Now here's the thing. Not everyone is going to want or need a Real ID. It's not for everyone. The people who may want to get a Real ID are those people who maybe do not have a valid US passport and they plan on traveling by plane in the future, okay? So if someone has a valid US passport, well, they can use that in the place of a Real ID. So we will, and let me backtrack just a bit. Why is there now a Real ID option for people? So now at the registry, you can tell us, do you want a standard driver's license or a standard Massachusetts ID card? Or do you want the Real ID driver's license or the Real ID Massachusetts ID card? The choice is yours. Real ID came into existence back in 2005. 2005. And actually it was a result of 9/11. So after 9/11 happened, Congress, of course, got together and tried to look at, okay, well, how can we make documenting safer in terms of giving people a driver's license or giving people a Massachusetts ID card? What can we do in order to make sure that the credentials are correct? So Congress back in 2005 came up with the Real ID Act. And part of that Real ID Act is that every DMV, Massachusetts, we call ourselves the RMV, but it's essentially the Department of Motor Vehicles, in order to issue a driver's license. So 2005, the Real ID was created, the Real ID Act. And what it does is it requires an extra credential in order for someone to apply for or renew a driver's license or Mass ID. So that's what Real ID is all about. But as I said, not everybody is going to want a Real ID. The difference is that if a person has a Real ID, again, either it's a driver's license or a Mass ID card, if it's a Real ID, it will include a little gold emblem in the top right-hand corner of that driver's license or of that Massachusetts ID card. So, and all of this information is on our website. There's a great website. It's mass.gov/ID, and you don't have to write it down because it's right at the top of your handout on the first page, the right-hand corner. So mass.gov/ID is the government's website, Massachusetts website, and all of this information is on there and you can take a good look. So this driver's license is a standard driver's license. We give out lots of standard driver's licenses. This is a Real ID driver's license, and now we give out a lot of Real ID driver's licenses. You decide on what you need. Now, what's going to be required of a person starting in October of the year 2020, the only way a person will be able to board an airplane in the United States to travel domestically. So to travel within the US, starting October 1st, 2020, the person is going to need to show either a valid passport or a real ID. And that's what the Real ID Act requires. So again, when will I be required to show a valid passport or a real ID in order to travel within the United States? What date? You got it, yeah. So the way I'm thinking, the way I remember it is 10-20-20. In 10-20-20, if I don't have a real ID or if I don't have a valid US passport, I will not be able to get on a plane and travel within the United States. The other thing I won't be able to do is enter certain federal office buildings. So not all federal office buildings, but certain federal office buildings. Well, which ones? The ones that are currently requiring you to show some sort of ID to get in. So that doesn't include the post office, because you don't need to show an ID to walk in through the doors of the post office. But there are certain federal office buildings where they are requiring you to show some sort of ID in order to enter. So that's the location where, come October 1st of 2020, if you want to enter certain federal office buildings where you must show ID, you will have to have either a valid US passport or a real ID. So some people think, well, you know what, I don't want to have to carry around my passport all the time. If I'm gonna, if I make frequent trips into a federal office building, it's kind of a pain to carry my passport. Some people don't mind to carry it, so they're gonna carry their passport. But I think I will eventually apply for a real ID, because it will be in my wallet. It's pretty simple, and that's one less thing I have to carry. So that's the difference between a standard ID or driver's license and a real ID, driver's license or ID card. The difference is the real ID will allow me to get on a plane or allow me to get into certain federal office buildings starting October 1st of 2020. Now, the next thing I want you to keep in mind is that where can you get a real ID? You can get a real ID at the Massachusetts Registry, but you can also get it at AAA. AAA, right here in Springfield, acts as our satellite registry, which is so wonderful. We've been so thankful for the partnership with AAA. So if you don't feel like going to the Registry of Motor Vehicles Service Center and you are a AAA member, you can go to AAA and apply for a real ID or a standard ID. Your choice. Again, it's your choice. Now, what I like about this website too, at mass.gov/ID, there's a little video link, and you can watch a video that tells you everything that I just said, but in a little bit more detail about why was Real ID created, when is a Real ID going to be required of me, what's the difference between a standard ID and a Real ID, and I forgot to mention, there's no difference in cost to get a Real ID. It costs the same as renewing a driver's license, which is $50. It costs the same as renewing a Massachusetts ID card, which costs $25. So there's no increased cost in order to get a real ID. The fees are the same. Now here's a question that I get a lot. But let me back up. When AAA or when the Registry of Motor Vehicles issues you a driver's license or an ID card, you've got that essentially for 5 years. There's an expiration date on it of 5 years. So what if you just renewed your driver's license back in January, before we were able to issue real IDs? So you went in January and you renewed your driver's license, and now you've got it for another 5 years, and it's all good, and you're like, I think I want one of those real IDs, and I don't want to wait until my license expires. I want to get it now just because I can. Well, if you choose to get it now, before your license is due to expire, you can do that, but it will cost $25. That's a replacement fee. The same thing, the same fee would be charged of me if I have my driver's license and it fell into the sewer. I lost it. Or actually, what actually happened to me, I was shoveling during the winter and I had my license in my pocket, which wasn't so smart, but I did, and it fell into a snowbank. So I lost my license, so I had to, the next day when I was looking for my license, I had to go get it replaced. It cost me $25 to get a replacement for my driver's license. And the funny thing is, when the snow melted, on my door actually was a little envelope that said, "I found this in my driveway." My license had somehow gotten pushed by the snowplow all the way down the street, like about a half mile down the street. My neighbor found it and returned it to me. So anyway, but that was after the snow melted. But if you want to get a replacement, say you lost your license or you lost your ID, you can't find it anywhere, you can get a replacement for $25. But what some people will do is they'll just wait until the license is due to expire. They'll wait to get that real ID when it's closer to the expiration date. Now, everyone in this room has the ability to renew your driver's license or your Mass ID card up to 1 year in advance of the expiration date. So keep that in mind too. So really, we give you a whole year in order for you to renew, to come on in if you need to, or to go online if you're eligible, to renew your driver's license and to renew your ID card. So we don't give you more than a year ahead of time, but we give you within 1 year of that driver's license expiration date for you to renew it. So at any time during that 1 year prior to the expiration date, you can come on in and renew your driver's license, and at that point, if you want, you can bring that extra credential and get a real ID instead of just renewing the standard driver's license. You can turn it into a real ID. So again, you've got two options. If your license doesn't expire for a few years and you want that real ID now, it will cost $25 because that's mid-cycle of your driver's license cycle. But if you can wait, well, you can certainly wait until within 1 year prior to the expiration date, go anytime, and just pay the $50 renewal fee, okay? So the choice is yours. And as Sarah said, there'll be another workshop to talk about, okay, how do I get the documents that I need? How do I renew my passport if I want to, and all of that. So we're talking Registry of Motor Vehicles today. So we talked about what does a real ID look like? What's the difference? What's the difference in cost? No difference. There's no difference. What's the difference in what it does for me? Well, it will allow me to get on a plane or enter a federal office, certain federal office buildings starting October 1st of 2020. And we've got this wonderful checklist too online too. So there are a lot of pieces to renewing a driver's license and renewing a Mass ID. So let's get to the checklist. So it says, what documents do I need? Well, if you're interested in applying for a learner's permit, a driver's license, or a Massachusetts ID card, or if you're interested in renewing your driver's license or Mass ID card, there are documents that you're going to have to bring in with you in order to do that. Some of these steps can be done online. It all depends. So our advice to you is, if you can, always start online first and try to do as much as you can online. And I'll talk to you about what are some of the things that you can do online to be prepared for your visit to AAA or to your visit to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. I forgot to mention one important piece about AAA that you do in order to renew your driver's license or your Mass ID or even your registration, your vehicle's registration at AAA, you do need to be a member, okay? So that's the piece that I forgot to mention. So, the first box on this sheet of paper is proof of lawful presence. So, and as you can see, there are 11 different documents listed in this top box on your handout in order for a person to prove lawful presence. So every single one of us in Massachusetts who want to renew a driver's license or renew a Mass ID card, we must at one time now prove lawful presence, which also is proving our date of birth. Once you do that with the Registry of Motor Vehicles, you don't have to do it again. It's a one and done. So for the next time when you come in to renew, let's say, you do need to prove lawful presence, okay? So when you come in to see us or when you go into AAA, you need to bring a document with you to prove lawful presence. Well, what documents can I bring? Any one of these 11 documents. Someone said, do I have to bring all these with me? No, any one of these documents. So you can bring a valid US passport. If the passport has expired, we cannot accept it, unfortunately. It must be a valid US passport. And if you decide to use your valid US passport to prove your lawful presence, that step can be done online. You don't have to do that in person. You check off online that yes, you're going to use your valid US passport to prove lawful presence. And then the next screen will prompt you for your passport's serial number. And you type that in, and it gets verified electronically, and you're done with that step. So, but that's for folks who want to use a valid US passport to prove lawful presence. Others might want to use the second document that is listed, which is an original or a certified version of your birth certificate. So that's important. That's important because the registry at AAA cannot accept a photocopied birth certificate. Okay, so that's a little bit of legwork that some people may have to do. They may have to scramble a little bit to get their original birth certificate or to find a certified version of your birth certificate. So that is that's what we accept. But again, it cannot be a photocopy. So what's a certified version of my birth certificate? It's the next closest thing to an original, and it would be issued by either the town clerk or the vital stats person in your city or town in which you were born. It has the raised seal. It's got an embossed, you can literally feel it with your fingers, that an original or a certified version of the birth certificate has that raised embossed emblem on it. So that's what we have to require of you. Again, just to prove lawful presence or date of birth. So, and then, as you can see, well, if you do not have a valid US passport, or you do not have a certified version, or an original of your birth certificate, you can see there are 9 other documents that you could bring in with you. And I'll just list them quickly, but one is a consular report of birth abroad. One is a permanent resident card issued by DHS or INS. Another word for that is a green card. Another is a temporary I-551 stamp on a foreign passport. Another one would be an employment authorization document. Another item we would accept is a foreign passport that has a valid US visa affixed to it, and these other 3 items. A certificate of citizenship issued by DHS. a certificate of naturalization, a re-entry permit, and last but not least, a refugee travel document. So you can see there are a lot of documents, and this is all, this isn't something that Massachusetts just decided to do. This is a federal mandate that all states within the United States must comply with. So they tell us what documents that we can accept, and then we are the messenger. So that's our job in order to help you get what you need. We're the messenger. So this checklist is pretty handy. So you decide what document you want to use. And I have to say, similar to the US passport, being able to be inputted online and electronically verified online, so you can skip that step at the registry, the same goes for certain birth certificates as well. So if your birth certificate has a serial number, you may be able to input that serial number on your own computer, and you may be able to verify that electronically too. So that's the good news. That's why, again, the lines at the registry are a little bit longer, because we have a lot more information to take in, and there's a lot, and we want to make sure we get it right. A lot of numbers to input, a lot of information to input. So it is slowing the process down, but we really appreciate your patience. Word to the wise, before you leave the counter of AAA or the Registry of Motor Vehicles. So let's say you come in, you renew your license, you renew your ID, or you decide to get your real ID. Before you leave the counter, take a really close look at that piece of paper. We're going to hand you a temporary, same as always. When you renew, we give you a temporary right then and there. Take a minute to really read it through and make sure everything is spelled correctly and we've got all the information correct for you. Because if you see a typo, we can fix it for you right there. And it's just going to be a big less of a headache if you don't, if a couple months go by and you realize, oh no, it's my wrong street number or the wrong name spelling. So again, before you leave that counter, take 1 minute and double check and proofread that document that we give you, okay? So that's it about proving lawful presence. And who has to do that? Anyone who wants to renew a driver's license or a Massachusetts ID card in Massachusetts and in all the other United States. So that's what we have to do in order to renew a driver's license or an ID card. Okay, so second step, proving social security number. Again, that step may be able to be done online. So, and it's so nice that Sarah and Annie and the folks here at the staff at the Senior Center are able to help people do that, because that's, again, going to save you time of waiting at the registry because you've taken care of that step online. But if you need to do it in person, so proving social security number is the second box on the handout. And you'll see that there are 6 documents that we can accept from you in order for you to prove your social security number in person. So you could bring in with you your social security card. That's great. If it has been laminated, we cannot accept it, unfortunately. So if your social security card has been laminated, by federal law, we are not allowed to accept that. People say, well, why not? Why? Why can you not accept a laminated social security number, card? And that is because it's somehow easier for people to doctor up a social security card and laminate it, and it would be harder for any DMV or staff to tell if it has been tampered with or if it's fraudulent. So just by federal law, we must require that you, if you're going to use your social security card in order to prove your social security number, it must be the version, the paper version that SSA gave us many, many years ago. But if you can't find that that, or if it's laminated, well, there are 5 other documents you could bring in instead. One is your W-2 form that shows your 9-digit social on it. Another one would be your 1099 form. Again, it's got to have your social security number on it. A non-SSA 1099 form that has your social security number on it. A pay stub that shows your name and your social security number on it. And last but not least, a social security denial notice issued by SSA with a passport, visa, and I-94. But that must be dated within 60 days of your visit. Only that document must be dated within 60 days. Okay, so again, you can see, you can bring in any one of the 6 documents listed in order to prove your social security number. And again, maybe with the help of Sarah or Annie, that's a step that you could do online, and that will save you time at the registry. So again, if a social security card has been laminated, we by law cannot accept that. Okay? But we can accept these other documents. All right, here at the bottom of the page is a very important piece of information. So, let's say in order for me to renew my driver's license, I'm going to bring in my birth certificate to prove lawful presence and also, of course, to prove my date of birth. But my birth certificate has my maiden name on it. So if I go in with my birth certificate and I say I'd like to renew my driver's license, and they'll say okay, and I give them my documents, and they say, is this your current name? No, that's my maiden name. And unfortunately, they will not accept that unless I have my marriage certificate along with it, or my divorce decree, or my court document that proves that I am who I am and I changed my name on whenever I change my name. So a lot of people change their names for different reasons, not just because they get married, but somebody maybe just doesn't like their name. So they petition the court and they change their name. So what we by law have to do, we have to make sure that your current name, that if your current name does not match the name on your proof of lawful presence document, that you just bring with you proof that shows that you did indeed change your name. So again, if your current name does not match the name that's listed on your birth certificate, you've got to bring in the court document that shows that you changed your name. So again, that is at the bottom of the page of page 1. So, let's go to the final piece of this. And that is to prove Massachusetts residency. So if I were to go into the registry at a AAA to renew my driver's license, and I had no interest in getting a real ID, I just want to keep my license, the standard driver's license, and renew that as is, I would only need to bring in with me one proof of Massachusetts residency. And what I could use to prove Massachusetts residency is my current driver's license or my current ID card. So that's it. I'm done. I pay my fee, I take the eye test if it's a license that I'm renewing, get my picture taken, and off I go. If at that time though I decide, you know what, I want the real ID, I would have to bring in 2 documents proving Massachusetts residency. Again, one could be my current driver's license or my current ID card, and the other document could be any one of these documents. I think we list close to 30 different documents that a person can bring in to prove Massachusetts residency. And I won't go through the whole list, but again, one is your current driver's license, your current Mass ID, a current learner's permit, any RMV issued mail dated within 60 days, including licensing reminders. So you can bring in your letter from the registry. That would be another form to prove Massachusetts residency. Other documents that we will accept in order to prove mass residency. A first-class government-issued mail dated within 60 days. A professional license, so any current Massachusetts-issued professional license, and it does not have to include your picture, okay? So if you're going to bring us your any professional license that you might have, that one does not need to include your picture. A current firearms card, a jury duty summons, property tax for the current year, excise tax bill for the current year, a utility bill, a credit card bill, a cell phone bill, and then the list goes on and on. Your current lease, mortgage, or a similar rental contract. Your mortgage statement dated within 60 days. Any financial related documents, not any, but the ones listed here. So a W-2, current pension statement, current retirement statement. Now let me just go back to the W-2 wage, W-2 wage and tax statement from the immediate prior year, okay? So again, read, take the time to read the fine print, and then there are several more that we will accept. So again, the only difference in the renewal process from renewing a standard ID compared to renewing a real ID or getting a real ID, you need to bring 2 proofs of Massachusetts residency in order to get yourself a real ID. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. So again, if you want a real ID, you've got to bring 2 documents from page 2. Okay? So let me make sure. Yeah, and this is your checklist. Bring this with you to AAA or to the registry, because this again will tell the greeter at AAA and at the registry that, okay, great, these are the documents that you're going to use. You're going to use your birth certificate, you're going to use your W-2 form, you've got your court order that shows you changed your name if you changed your name, and you're going to bring 2 documents. And that's it. You bring that with you, you pay your fee. Again, to renew a Mass ID, it costs $25. To renew a driver's license, it costs $50. You've got that document for 5 years. If you decide during those 5 years that you want to get a replacement in the middle of that license cycle or ID cycle, it will cost $25 to get a replacement. But if you decide to just, keep that 5 year and the year before your license expires, you can go in any day and renew it, any day, any weekday that is. Or you could go online anytime within 1 year prior to the expiration date and renew your driver's license.